Hey, Stock Explorers, welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at applied digital.
APLD on the NASDAQ.
Yeah, and we're going to try to unpack this whole transition from crypto mining to AI and high-performance computing, which seems to be all the rage these days,
Yeah.
and why it's so interesting for investors. Let's get into it. So, I've been reading about applied digital. It's interesting. They started out in crypto, right?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is they, really track kind of this recent a shift that we've seen in tech.
Okay.
They were operating data centers for blockchain mining.
So they didn't own the mining rigs themselves, just the data centers.
Exactly.
Like they were the landlords of the crypto world.
Yeah, they were essentially providing the space and the power, but not the actual mining hardware.
Okay.
And then you had the explosion of AI.
Right. ChatGPT, everyone's talking about AI.
Exactly. And so this drove this huge surge in demand for computing power to run all these new, very complex AI applications.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even in just the past year, it's like it's gone crazy, right? Everyone's talking about AI.
Absolutely.
So Applied Digital, I guess, they just saw this trend coming and they're like, okay, we got to get in on this, right?
Exactly. They recognize that, hey, we're in a prime position to capitalize on this surge in demand for high-performance computing.
Makes sense.
And just to give you an idea, a single AI query can use 10 times the electricity of a standard Google search.
10 times.
10 times, yeah.
Wow. I knew AI was power hungry, but that's a whole other level.
Yeah, it's a whole other game.
Okay. So they decided to switch gears and they started building data centers specifically designed for AI.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And this is where their GPU as a service or gas business comes into play.
Exactly. So Applied Digital, what they do is they own, build, and then rent out GPUs.
Right. And for anyone who's not super tech savvy, GPUs are those specialized processors that are basically the brains of AI, right?
Exactly. GPUs are really well suited for the kinds of parallel processing that AI tasks require.
Okay. So it's a brilliant model, really. Instead of companies having to invest in all this complex and expensive AI infrastructure themselves,
Right.
they could just rent it on demand from Applied Digital.
Exactly. Applied Digital handles all the complexities of building and managing the AI infrastructure.
So it's like getting all the benefits of a high-performance sports car without the hassle of owning one. You just pay for the ride when you need it.
I like that analogy.
But here's where I get a little bit confused.
Okay.
Why North Dakota? It's not exactly Silicon Valley, is it?
That's a great question. It's actually one of their key advantages.
Okay.
So you see, North Dakota has a surplus of energy. They produce more energy than they consume.
Really?
Yeah, which makes it a really reliable and affordable source of power.
Which is crucial for those power-hungry data centers.
Absolutely.
Okay, I get that. Cheap energy's good. But what else makes North Dakota so special? Why not, like, I don't know, Arizona?
Well, for one, the cold climate up there acts as a natural cooling system. It dramatically reduces the energy they need for cooling.
That's smart, taking advantage of the natural environment.
Exactly. And they also have some pretty good economic incentives. The state offers incentives that, can help to lower costs even further.
Gotcha.
Plus, they have a really strong fiber optic network up there.
Okay, and that's essential for all the high-speed data transfer they need for AI, right?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like a hidden gem for high-performance computing. Who knew?
Yeah, North Dakota's got some pretty good stuff going on.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier they locked in those power contracts before the AI boom, right?
Yeah, before the AI boom really took off.
So that gives them a huge advantage now that energy prices are going up everywhere because of all this demand.
Exactly. They were ahead of the curve.
Okay, so they had the vision, they had the strategy, they were early to the game.
Mm-hmm.
But talk to me about the execution. What does this look like in action?
Well, their flagship project, a 100-megawatt data center in Ellendale, North Dakota, is a great example.
Okay, Ellendale.
And get this, it's strategically located near multiple wind farms.
So they're literally plugging into renewable energy.
That's right.
That's impressive. Okay, and what about future plans? Are they planning to expand Ellendale or build other data centers?
Oh, absolutely. They're not slowing down. They're adding another 300 megawatts to Ellendale, bringing the total capacity to 400 megawatts.
Wow, 400 megawatts. That's massive.
Yeah, and to make sure that everything runs smoothly, they just brought on a new senior VP of operations, Chris Jackson.
Okay, so they're building a serious team to run this operation.
Yeah, they're bringing in some real experts.
Okay, but let's talk money. Do they have the financial firepower to pull all this off? Building these massive data centers has got to be expensive.
This is where things get really interesting. Applied Digital has managed to secure some pretty serious funding.
Okay, I'm all ears. Who's backing them?
Well, they just landed a $160 million strategic investment from a group of institutional investors.
Okay.
And this group includes NVIDIA,
NVIDIA, as in the leading GPU manufacturer.
the one and only.
That's huge. I mean, that's a major vote of confidence from one of the biggest players in the AI space.
It is. And remember, they're already a preferred NVIDIA cloud partner.
Right, so they've got a strong relationship with NVIDIA.
Yeah, this signals a pretty serious partnership between the two companies.
Okay, so $160 million from NVIDIA and some other big investors. That's a good start.
Oh, but there's more. They also secured a massive $5 billion financing partnership with Macquarie Asset Management.
Hold on. $5 billion.
You've heard that right.
That's an insane amount of money.
It is. And Macquarie isn't just any investor. They're one of the world's largest infrastructure investors. They're putting serious money behind Applied Digital.
Okay, so they're putting down, what was it, like $900 billion for a 15% stake in Ellendale?
Yep, 15% stake in the LNL campus.
That's a big deal.
It is.
So basically, they've secured funding for their entire pipeline. It's brilliant.
It's a very smart move.
But let's be realistic here for a second. Building data centers burns through cash, right?
Of course.
They're still in the investment phase.
They are.
So when do they actually expect to become profitable? I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah, that's the question that everyone wants to know the answer to. And, it's important to acknowledge that they're currently losing money.
Okay.
But their adjusted EBITDA is positive and it's growing, which is a good sign. So, they're moving in the right direction.
Okay, so they're on the right track, but not in the black yet. Got it.
Exactly.
And what about this risk of shareholder dilution? I mean, they've issued convertible notes and warrants to raise capital, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that a concern? Couldn't that dilute the value of the shares for existing investors?
Absolutely, that's a valid concern. But the Macquarie deal is structured to minimize dilution to public stockholders while giving the company, more flexibility to fund their growth. So they're trying to strike a balance there.
So they're trying to protect their existing shareholders while still raising the money they need to grow.
Exactly. It's a delicate balancing act.
Okay. This is all shaping up to be a fascinating story, but I'm curious to hear more about their path to profitability and what hurdles they might encounter along the way.
Well, let's take a quick break and we'll dive deeper into those questions when we come back.
So before the break, we were talking about Applied Digital's ambitious plans for growth and the big question of profitability.
Right.
They're not in the black yet, but it sounds like their core business is actually pretty solid.
Yeah, their adjusted EBITDA, which gives us a clearer picture of their operating performance, is positive and trending upwards. So that's a good sign.
Okay, so the foundation seems strong.
Yeah,
But, at the end of the day, it all comes down to securing customers for all those data centers they're building.
exactly.
What's the latest on that front? Have they announced any major deals yet?
Well, they've been a bit tight-lipped about naming specific clients, understandably so, in such a competitive market.
Right, they don't want to tip their hand to their rivals.
Exactly.
But they have provided some clues about the types of companies they're targeting, right?
Yeah, so think cutting-edge AI development. So, self-driving car companies,
Okay.
pharmaceutical companies using AI to develop new drugs,
Right.
financial institutions using AI for fraud detection,
Gotcha.
even video game developers
Oh, interesting.
pushing the boundaries of realistic graphics.
Okay, so basically any company that needs serious computing power to run complex AI applications
Exactly.
could be a potential customer for Applied Digital.
Exactly.
But that's a pretty broad range.
Yeah.
Are they focusing on attracting a few big fish, or are they trying to build a more diverse customer base?
I think they're aiming for a mix of both.
Okay.
They offer a range of services from fractional compute to entire supercomputers. So they can really cater to companies of different sizes and with varying needs.
So it's all about building a diverse ecosystem of customers. That's smart.
It is. It's really key for long-term stability.
Makes sense, not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
But how do they convince these companies to choose them over the competition? I mean, there are a lot of other players out there, right?
Of course. But we've talked about their location advantage in North Dakota.
Right, the cheap energy, the natural cooling, the favorable power contracts.
Yeah, all that. But it goes beyond that. Remember their preferred NVIDIA cloud partner status.
Right, you mentioned that before.
Yeah.
But why is that partnership so significant?
Well, NVIDIA is the, undisputed leader in the GPU market.
Right, the brains of AI.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this partnership gives Applied Digital access to the latest and greatest GPU technology, which is crucial for staying ahead of the curve.
So it's like a stamp of approval from the industry leader, which gives them credibility and helps them attract customers.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just about the technology. NVIDIA also has this vast network of partners and customers
Right.
that Applied Digity can tap into.
Okay, so the NVIDIA partnership is a big plus.
Yeah,
But we still haven't really answered the question of, will they be able to secure enough customers to fill all that capacity they're building?
it's true. It's still early to say for sure. These markets are evolving at a rapid pace,
Right.
and there's a lot of competition out there, so no guarantees at this point.
Okay, so what signs should investors be looking for to gauge their progress? What should we be keeping an eye on?
I think there are a few key things to watch.
Okay.
First, are they meeting their construction deadlines for these new data centers?
Right, stay on schedule.
Exactly.
Okay, alls.
Second, are they announcing new customer signings?
Especially those big-name hyperscalers we talked about.
Exactly. Those are the ones to watch.
Okay, and third,
And third, are they continuing to innovate and stay ahead of the technology curve?
right, because if they fall behind, they're in trouble.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that framework. So let's start with the construction deadlines. How are they doing on that front?
So far, so good.
Okay,
Their flagship 100-megawatt data center in Ellendale is on track,
to be completed as scheduled.
as scheduled.
Okay, no red flags there. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
What about new customer signings? Have they announced any major deals recently?
Well, they haven't disclosed specific customer names, but they have indicated that they are in late-stage negotiations
Okay,
with several hyperscalers
for their Ellendale campus.
for Ellendale. Yeah,
That's potentially huge.
it is.
If they can land even one of those tech giants,
Yeah,
it would be a game changer.
for sure.
Okay, what about innovation? Are they doing anything to stay ahead of the game in terms of technology?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They're investing heavily in cutting-edge technologies like direct liquid cooling.
Right, which is essential for keeping those powerful GPUs from overheating,
Yeah, and ensuring optimal performance. They're also focused on sustainability.
which is becoming increasingly important for environmentally conscious customers.
Absolutely.
It sounds like they're ticking a lot of the right boxes.
Yeah.
They have a solid foundation, a compelling story, a unique strategy,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem to be executing on their plans. But I keep coming back to their financials.
Okay.
They're still losing money.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile that with all this positive momentum?
Well, it's important to distinguish between types of losses.
Okay?
Applied Digital is currently in a heavy investment phase.
Right, they're pouring money into building out their infrastructure.
Exactly, and these expenses are weighing on their bottom line in the short term.
So it's not necessarily a sign that their core business is unprofitable, more like a temporary side effect of their aggressive growth strategy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And their adjusted EBITDA, which strips out some of those one-time expenses, is positive, and, more importantly, their revenue is growing rapidly.
Okay, so the question is, can they scale their revenue fast enough to outpace their growing expenses and eventually swing to profitability?
That's the question.
And that brings us back to customer acquisition. They need to secure enough long-term contracts to fill those data centers
Yeah.
and generate the revenue they need to grow their costs and become profitable.
You nailed it. It all boils down to execution.
And that's where things get a bit trickier to assess, right?
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, we can analyze their financials, their partnerships, their technology.
Yeah.
But we can't see inside the boardroom. We don't know the details of their sales pipeline,
Right.
their customer acquisition costs,
Exactly.
their churn rate, all those things that ultimately determine whether a company can succeed long term.
Right.
So there's a certain level of uncertainty that comes with investing in a company like Applied Digital.
Of course.
They're operating in a fast-growing and dynamic market, which presents both opportunities and risks.
Exactly. They have tremendous potential, but it's still early in their journey.
Right.
And there are a lot of unknowns.
So for investors who are considering Applied Digital, what are the key things to watch as this story unfolds?
I think it's crucial to focus on the pace of customer acquisition,
Okay.
the terms of those contracts, how long are they, what kind of pricing are they getting,
Hey.
and their ability to manage their expenses and capital expenditures as they continue to scale.
If they can nail those three things, they could be onto something big.
They could indeed.
This deep dive has been quite a roller coaster ride. We've uncovered their motivations for pivoting from crypto to AI, explored their innovative business model and those unique advantages in North Dakota, and we've grappled with the uncertainty surrounding their path to profitability.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey so far.
And we can't forget about the potential risks, which we'll explore in more detail when we come back for the final part of our deep dive into Applied Digital. So stay tuned, Stock Explorers.
Welcome back, Stock Explorers. We've been talking about Applied Digital and their big leap from crypto mining to AI and high-performance computing. But, every investment comes with risks. And Applied Digital, definitely no exception there.
Yeah, that's right. It's really important to understand those risks, for anyone who's seriously considering investing in Applied Digital.
So let's not sugarcoat it. What are some of the biggest challenges they're facing?
I think one of the most significant is execution risk.
Right.
They've got this grand vision of, building out this massive network of data centers.
Right. Ambitious plans.
Very ambitious. But construction projects, I mean, they're notoriously complex, unpredictable.
Yeah, especially at you scale. I mean, it's one thing to renovate your house, but this is like a million times more complicated and expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And things rarely go exactly according to plan. Never. So any delays or cost overruns, I mean, that could really impact their profitability.
Of course.
And their ability to, attract those big name customers we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Another risk is competition. I mean, the market for, high performance computing and AI infrastructure, it's getting crowded.
Yeah, a lot of players out there.
A lot of players. And, Applied Digital is facing off against established giants with, deep pockets.
Right, the big guys.
The big guys, tons of experience.
Right.
Not to mention a whole wave of, hungry startups.
Right, so it's not a guaranteed win for Applied Digital.
No, not at all.
So how do they stand out in such a crowded field? We've talked about their location in North Dakota and, those cheap energy contracts.
Yeah.
Gives them a cost advantage. But could that location also be a liability?
It's possible some customers might be hesitant to locate their critical infrastructure, in a relatively remote area.
Yeah, especially those on the coasts.
Yeah. Even with all of North Dakota's benefits, they might prefer to be closer to major tech hubs.
Right, closer to where the action is.
Yeah, closer to, Silicon Valley or, other major tech centers.
Where the talent is.
Exactly.
Okay, so location, it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
It is.
What about the risk of natural disasters? Or, other unforeseen events
Right.
that could disrupt operations at their data centers?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a consideration with any infrastructure investment.
Right, it can happen anywhere.
Anywhere.
But is North Dakota particularly vulnerable?
Well, North Dakota does have some unique weather patterns.
Yeah.
But Applied Digital is taking steps to mitigate those risks
Okay.
with, reversed building standards, backup systems.
So they're aware of the risks?
They are.
They're trying to plan for them?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good to know. So location has its pros and cons. What about the technology itself? I mean, we all know how quickly the tech world moves. What's cutting edge today could be obsolete tomorrow. So how does Applied Digital deal with that risk?
That's a huge challenge for any company in this space.
Yeah?
They need to constantly invest in upgrading their technology,
Right.
making sure they're, betting on the right horses, so to speak.
Staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly. Falling behind, it could be disastrous.
Yeah. It's like that old saying, innovate or die.
Right.
And speaking of costs, they're spending a lot of money to build these data centers.
Yeah.
How do they manage those expenses as they scale, especially since they're not profitable yet?
That's another key risk, managing their expenses and capital expenditures as they grow.
Right.
It's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
They need to fuel their expansion, but they can't burn through cash too quickly.
Right.
Overspending could derail their path to profitability.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between, aggressive growth and financial discipline.
Exactly.
And we can't forget about the risk of shareholder dilution, which we touched on earlier. If their stock price doesn't perform well, those convertible notes they issued could convert into a lot of new shares,
Right.
which would dilute the ownership of existing shareholders.
That's right. And, that's a risk that investors always need to weigh carefully.
Especially with growth companies like Applied Digital.
Yeah,
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, Stock Explorers.
we have.
We've explored Applied Digital's bold vision, their unique strategy, and their potential to disrupt the high-performance computing market.
Yeah,
But we've also highlighted the very real risks they face.
right. It's a classic high-risk, high-reward scenario.
Yeah.
There's the potential for significant returns if they execute their plan successfully.
Right, big if.
Big if. But there are also significant challenges that could derail their progress.
So what's the final verdict? Do you think Applied Digital's strengths outweigh their risks?
That's a decision that each investor needs to make for themselves, really,
Yeah, true.
based on their own, risk tolerance and investment goals.
Yeah. We've given you the information,
The insights,
the context to, make an informed decision.
hopefully.
Now it's up to you to do your own research and decide if Applied Digital is the right investment for you.
And remember, no matter what you decide, diversification is key.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Make sure you have a well-balanced portfolio that aligns with your financial goals.
Good advice.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into applied digital. We hope you found it valuable, informative,
Yeah, it's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
and to all our stock explorers out there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and to give this episode a like if you enjoyed it. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the world of investing. Until then, happy exploring.